guys, and welcome back to the channel. So a little Sunday video I've got together for everyone, a few things to go over here. Bearing in mind I am still a little under the weather, so my voice may sound a little croaky at times, but we'll get through it and we'll push through as usual. It's been a busy week, there's been a lot going on, some positives, some negatives, but as always, we're just going to push on. Now, the first thing to go over is probably the thing that everyone's most concerned with right now, and that is the Binance burn. This was batch 13, if I'm right. 13? Hang on. Yeah, so this was, I'm sure, batch 13, because batch 12 was 1.4 billion, if I'm correct. So moving back to this, they have burnt just below 1 billion. And this is simply because everything's just not very interesting for LUNC. It's been like this for some time. All this comes down to bite to crunch is we're not doing what we should be doing as a blockchain. Even with the mass amounts of funding, which is way past $1 million within a year, it's still not got us anywhere. It's still not gotten us these on-ramps. It's not gotten us these very simple things that we so desperately need. And it's just, everybody's just like fighting to control a piece of LUNC. And instead of it being this true community owned coin, it's more owned by like privatized sectors who have taken it upon themselves to instead create these systems and integrate it into the blockchain. They simply thought to themselves, no, we've built it, we own it, we have control of it, and that's just the way it's going to be. If you want to rent this, then yeah, go ahead and rent it. But ultimately, everything in LUNC, it's just, there's never been anything of substance, right? Nothing for people on the outside to go, hey, look, they're doing something. Hey, maybe I should invest in this. It creates speculation, and where there's speculation, there's investments. Where there's investments, there's price movement, and we all want this to happen. These sorts of things are always going to start at the core, and like I've said many times, even before the United Vision, I had put up an Agora when we were using Agora to explain, but more or less everything that's in a United Vision. I think it was about 15 points, but it's these very simple things that, you know, as a developer, they look at it and go, well, you know, it's not really going to do anything, but they just don't understand, because they look at things and understand it as an algorithm, as numbers. They don't understand the effect it actually has on the market, on the holders. You know, holders want to be able to go off and tell their friends, hey, I invested in this, and hey, it's starting to go up, because then that person invests, and then that person then goes on to tell someone else, and then they invest, and they get their parents to invest. You know how the snowball effect picks up, and that snowball's just not being generated at any point in the past like year. It's just always more money, more bugs, the consistent fight to keep in this idea. And it's more or less like a bubble, like a dream that's been fed to us as a community. And it's this idea of parity, right? And being in parity. We're always going to be out of parity. We're always going to need to catch up to the main system, because the main system will update, and then we have to update according to what they've updated. So there's always going to be this battle, and that's why there's just never anything of sustenance. So in reflection, everything therefore starts to go down. That's why the Binance burns are dropping off. Every time we get another burn, it's just going to keep going down until there's a change in the market, till there's a change in the way people utilize and use LUNC. It's all about creating incentives not only for holders but for validators, for project builders across board to come to the chain, to build, to develop, put time in, take rewards out, and then funnel stuff back in, and then bring a user base to this blockchain. It's a real simple idea, and you know, we've been in this a year now, and this is starting to, like, it's what I see as like technical advisory saying, hey, you know, things aren't going well. Binance is burning less. Maybe we should think about the way we're doing things. So, you know, I know a lot of people are panicking, but ultimately this comes down to the blockchain. It's not any one person that's responsible. It's the whole blockchain and the way people treat this pillage and plunder kind of attitude. So anyway, Binance is burned. This is really good. We've got other burn projects like ProjectLUNCBurn. You've got DF Lunc Protocol. You've got all of these different projects that are burning. I have no doubt as LUNC becomes more interesting, you're probably going to see all these different coins spring back up, like Lunatic's token, and stuff like that, because where there's trading, there's possible opportunities to spin up a coin, burn, like 5% of it and then keep the other 95%. And that's how a lot of these sort of burn projects operate. Not saying that's how all of them operate, but quite a lot of them do. They just jump from chain to chain to chain, whatever's interesting, whatever's in, and whatever people are kind of clicking with at that point in time. So let's move forward to something a little bit more. Well, that was quite positive, but we're going through the notions here. We're playing good cowboy, we're playing bad cowboy, and we are playing devil's advocate. So something that's really, really shocked me recently is the all nodes vote. Now, long pause. This in itself is probably one of the hardest things on the United Vision. If you don't know what the United Vision is, I'm going to leave a link to it because it's in the community section of Commonwealth. A lot of people have misses and they keep saying, what is this United Vision? So I'll leave a link to it in there. But this is it. It's got a lot of stuff in it. But ultimately, this was the most important thing for us to address as a community. And there's so many people, right? I think something I saw recently was someone claiming that the recent price movement was all because of something they had done. And I was just like, well, that's pretty big headed. But yeah, we need to do stuff like this to root all of this stuff out at its core. Now, I'm a validator that has worked so hard to build and gain trust and show people I am here for the community. I am here to bring in new kind of ideas. This directly affects me, and anyone that was in my position right now definitely wouldn't have gone, hey, let's introduce a dynamic minimum commission based on voting power. They wouldn't have done that. They would have had the idea in their head that they could become one of these big nodes like all nodes with mass amounts of control over the blockchain. And that's kind of the idea. We never saw realistically anyone pursue this other than all nodes. And that was in a very fragile time when the community just simply didn't understand everything and the ins, the outs, the if, the buts, the coconuts, because not a lot of people advised the community in a sense that when you're told certain things, for example, like recently, you've all been told about a spend proposal, right? But in those spend proposals, they're not mentioning to the community, well, there's a funding issue. And if you do choose to fund this, you're not going to be able to fund that later. It's these vital bits of information that people specifically leave out to ensure that they have the best chance of proposing and passing, and they're not going to cause any problems, because ultimately it's not a problem right now, but it's going to be at the next quarter. So like I was saying, right, this kind of system, like, it doesn't benefit anybody at the top. In fact, it doesn't benefit realistically anybody who's worked hard to get to where they've got to. This gives every node now an opportunity to become part of an equal playing field. No one has tried to introduce stuff like this, and if they have, it's always, and you've got to pay us 150k for absolutely no work. And what we need, right, is more people who believe in LUNC as a blockchain and believe it can get to where it needs to be, and that it can do it, and it doesn't need to have anything attached to it to do that, right? This blockchain, in my head, yeah, there's a lot of work, but it can become a top 15 coin again in the cryptoverse, because if we have so many people that want it that badly and they want to see that happen, they'll fight for every inch to get there. And if everybody stops with this kind of, I just need to make what I can now before the chain crumbles, we're never going to get there. And it's really sad, because ultimately, I get it, everybody can't work for free, but like when I look at this at the beginning, right, everybody wanted to work for free. Everybody was consumed with this idea of a fair, equal, community-owned coin where everybody had a say, governance would be respected, and it was supposed to be this real nice system, and it's just turned into this real kind of greed-based and decisions based on what is going to give someone in voting power. And something I noticed recently was Terra Vita. I think I may need to actually go to the main person's account, which is Rexy. And it was quite sad to see this for me. Oh my God, the way people spell things. Is it like this? So this kind of stuff, as a validator, it kind of gets to me. So they ultimately changed their vote, or they've done something based, they may have deleted it now, um, based on them losing voting power, noticing they were losing voting power because of their vote, um, and simply saying, well, we're probably going to change it because we don't want to lose any more voting power. And it's not. Validators have a responsibility to understand the deeper goings of this blockchain. You have a responsibility to make decisions based on information and not what it's going to give you. You shouldn't make a decision based because you're going to lose voting power or you're going to gain voting power. You should make those decisions based. I think they've deleted it, but you get what I'm saying here, and it's not nice when people are saying to their community, right, well, we're just going to let you vote on Twitter and we'll vote for whatever you want to vote. It's, if I said to everybody, for example, if we're all stranded on an island and I keep saying to everybody, even though we've got, a specific amount of food, I'm saying to everybody, you can have a 3-course meal every night, right? But they've put me in charge of keeping an eye on the food and ensuring that it goes out properly. But I'm saying everybody can have a 3-course meal every night. What are you going to say? Yeah, cool, fine. He's in charge of the food. He knows what's going on. I trust him, right? The biggest issue is the lack of information being given out, and it's this whole sort of very interesting week that has gone by of these different decisions that people make based on what it's going to bring them. What are they going to get out of it? Is it going to make them look good? Is it going to make them look bad? I think there's a lot of validators that are also scared. They're scared because what I don't understand is how something can get rejected and then put straight back up again and then pass. I don't understand how it can change that quickly. The funding issue not get solved. In fact, it got worse. Yeah, it's just been a very, very interesting week for me. But ultimately, looking at this, right, we need more people that are going to stop pillaging and plundering. They're going to get together with different people and they're going to get a plan together, and they're going to think to themselves, if we pull this off, the price could go up. And if we buy 20 million LUNC between us, it could go up by X amount. We could make this much. It's never like that. It's just everybody has now got to this point where they know there's funding in the community pool. And once you're in, you're in. And we consistently will see the same thing over and over again. The same people get funded, the same issues arise, the same attacks happen to those who disagree or maybe have a different trail of thought. It's not a healthy environment, and this is all about this interesting week that has transpired. But this, for me, it's a real good sign that change is coming, and it's been a long road, right? It's been a year and 4 months, going on to 5 months now, and there's just been no real change. No one's tried to root out the core issues and actually go for those. And that's what me and Strafe are doing. We're not trying to do it. We're going to do it. If proposals pass, we'll do it. And I think something that's been, kind of like misportrayed at the moment is this idea of we need the L1 team. We don't need anybody, right? We need a couple of people to do some PRs for us and merge them. That's about it. And probably a few more little things, but we don't need them to do it. It's just going to speed the process up. So it's really funny to see how people are like misrelaying this information, and then also this thing of someone's been going around saying, Strafe, really good proposal, really good idea, really good united vision, and it's like completely writing me out of it. And it's funny because to a lot of these people, I'm just a YouTuber. I'm just a useless sack of potatoes that talks about nothing. But people like myself, people like Strafe, we stepped aside and we thought to ourselves, we've got to start changing things. This is probably one of the most long-winded things to go through on the United Vision, but ultimately it's one of the most important things, not just because of what it will do, but just for everything. And it's one of the most complex things to get in place, other than the burn slider system, which is a whole different box of frogs on a complete different universe, but we'll get there in the end and we will get all of these things done. I look forward to the day when we do have enhanced payment systems and milestone systems for developers so they are held accountable. Because the thing that I don't like at the moment is we pay these clowns for like 3 months and then no change can be suggested for 3 months. And then what happens is they start to behave themselves about 2-3 weeks before their funding. Everybody's got real short memories in LUNC. They seem to forget all of the pain and everything we've just gone through. And I don't think, as good as any team is, if they don't obey governance, they can't follow governance, they're writing deals behind closed doors, they're centralizing decision making, they shouldn't be paid on this blockchain and they definitely shouldn't be developing it going forward. It's as simple as that. We've been through so much bullshit now that honestly, I don't mind sitting around for 2 months interviewing people to try and find decent developers who are not just going to sit there and work for a paycheck and do things when it suits them and how it suits them. So yeah, there's a lot that's going to be coming for our blockchain. And honestly, with all of the different sort of people that are saying all of these different things and making all of these different promises, right? Like, loads of people are putting this whole idea that LUNC is nothing without UST, and that's absolute horse. It's horse for the specific reason that before the crash, and I'm going to shock everybody shortly as to what's going to be happening shortly in the future. You're really going to like this, but USTC wouldn't work without Luna at the time, right? USTC wouldn't have been possible without Luna. Without Luna, USTC has no reason to have existed in the first place. So feeding this idea around to different people that it's nothing without, it sucks that that's like that, because ultimately the way it worked previously was neither one worked well without the other. They both needed each other. It was a symbiotic algorithm based relationship, right? It was perfect and it was in harmony to go around saying, and it's this idea of trying to get everybody to put their eggs into one basket. Now, what I'm doing is I've got a podcast going on today with Bitmos. Next week is SemCom. The week after that is going to be, fingers crossed. I've been in touch. We've been talking. We've thrown out some DMs and we've gone back and forth. And I'm going to be getting on Connor Crypto, which was formerly known as Connor Kenny. He was a Luna holder pre-crash. I was a religious viewer of his channel before I started HCC, and I watched him go through the notion of the crash, and I was commenting and I was speaking to him as just a subscriber back then, just, someone who used to view crypto content. And I thought it was really good to get a podcast with him for the specific reason that he understands the system when it was built. He understands the system because he utilized it very heavily. He did a lot of content about it and he followed it very deeply, and he lost a lot to this crash. I think it's going to be really interesting to get some input from someone who understands the system, understands the market module, and understands the risks of turning stuff like that back on. So, like I was saying, this is more or less like a catch up from like the whole week, just going over a few things because I've been very under the weather. I've not been doing too well, but just catching up on things, a little bit of a longer video. Just stick with me. If you've got your cup of teas, maybe go get a pause, go get a coffee, come back, carry on watching. But there's some other stuff that are coming up, and I've seen these considerations before submitting the proposal for reopening the market swap. For those of you who don't know what the market swap module did, it's more or less responsible for the hyperminting that brought us all of these lovely LUNC coins we so desperately need to burn through. Now, the biggest issues are, even with the limiters and all of the different things, you can't really stop it from minting coins, and it's going to take some real smart kind of algorithms and new approaches to actually fix this. And I think a lot of people think, USTC is going to be repegged in a month, and it's simply not. It's going to take years, if not 2-3 years, because it's incremental. And on the top of that, right, you've got to get all of the liquidity to get there. Once you get there, you need something to not only maintain the peg, you need something to hold the peg, right? So like I was saying, going again, this whole idea of certain people like LOL69 selling this, oh, you know, LUNC's nothing without USTC, and if you can't repeg USTC, LUNC's doomed. It's no, that's not the case. That's simply not the case. It's never going to be the case. And this attitude like that is what actually creates divisions and factions and people that have different beliefs. We all need each other at the end of the day, right? We all need each other. And it's as simple as that. So this idea, right, of switching the market swap back on and everything being rainbows and daisies, it's not going to be like that. And something I've seen recently is the VIN is more or less just, they're not monitoring anything the USTC quant team's doing. None of the stuff is being verified or checked through for malicious. You know, people have such short memories and they don't understand that Terraport was built from people from Terra Rebels, right? All of these different groups are just divisions of Terra Rebels. Then all of them, they're all part of Terra Rebels and they're all part of other blockchains like Doxchain and stuff like that. We're at a point now where it's getting ridiculous, and the person who pulled the Terraport rug pull, okay, was part of Terra Rebels. We've just seen another one recently, which was Candice, which wasn't that much. You know, but ultimately these things keep happening. We've seen different burn coins rug pull. We've seen different projects rug pull. It's one of those things that ultimately we can't change the past, but we can change the future and we can make better decisions as a community. To not keep walking these paths of real bad mistakes. The mistake you could make with the market swap module is hyper minting another 7 trillion coins within a matter of hours again. And people don't understand how much work went into turning that off. Like, it wasn't just something you could turn off. Like, a lot of people weren't here back in May last year and they don't understand how crazy it was watching those coins just get minted. Like, I remember going to sleep and there was like just under 1 trillion. No, it was like 750 billion coins or something like that. Went to sleep, woke up, a couple of hours later, checked, and it was at like 7 point, I think it was reading wrong, but it was like 7.9 trillion, which must have been a wrong reading at the time because the supply's never been that high. Something that we figured out later. But, you know, I don't ever want to be in that position again, because guess what? Once those coins get released, once the supply gets diluted and the exchanges start pumping them out to people again, we are doomed, right? And this is something that I've found recently is this real kind of sabotage-like behavior, right? The idea of wanting to delete coins out of wallets that you've deemed as zombie. If I gave you a list of 50 wallets and said to you which one of those wallets is a retail wallet and which one of those wallets is specifically that company that is not using those funds because you've said so, you wouldn't be able to. Right? There's no one out there that would be able to tell you from those 50 wallets specifically guaranteed 100% that those are who they say they are. And that's the biggest issue with DeFi in itself, right? You can never prove 95% of the time who's behind the funds because there is no KYC, right? There is none of the stuff there is in other sectors of crypto. This is why it's DeFi, it's decentralized, right? There's no port of call. When you lose funds, you lose funds on this blockchain. It's as simple as that. So like I was saying, we really need to be careful. We really need to monitor this as a community going forward, that this sabotage-like behavior does not ever put the blockchain at risk, because as much as I want to see a repeg, as much as I want to see LUNC shoot to the moon, and I want to see all of these different things, I want to see the IBCs open, I want to see Alliance, you know, I want to see it all, I want to see the works, but I want to see it safely. I want to get there in one piece, and I want to get there as a community that doesn't keep getting torn apart by these, like, I see them as like absolute disasters in everyday life when there's like a train crash or something crazy like that, and all eyes of the world go on to that one specific issue. Everybody lose track of what they're doing, and you know, I don't want to keep seeing that happen. You know, different views get sort of brought up from that and more divisions get created, and we're all then again walking different paths with this big elastic band ball, and eventually we all get pulled back to the ball anyway because it's rubberized. Folks, little bit longer of a video, but we had a lot to catch up on. I think it's going really well. I'm really, really hopeful that this is going to stick. It's going to pass and it's not going to get shot down by all of the other validators that have not voted. All I can say to people right now, and it's kind of like sucky to have to say this, it's one of those ones, right? I've been around for like a year and 4 months, right? I'm not going anywhere, even with people trying to dox me and do all of these different things, which is totally pathetic. I'm still here, right? I'm still here. I'm still pushing forward. And all I want to do is build this blockchain out. I don't want a paycheck, right? As much as Strafe hates the word, we are a volunteer task force. And there's just not that many of us out there. And, you know, I've worked so hard. So if you're not delegating with us, if you're not subscribed to this channel, if you don't comment, if you don't drop a like, consider doing it today. Consider supporting. We've got a lot of new style content coming out with ramping the podcasts up. We've got a lot going on. I've got high hopes for the months ahead for everything that's going on. There's huge things going on over at Lunc Penguins. It's so much it needs to go into like an hour-long podcast, and someone needs to just sit there and question me. It's absolutely insane at this point. Folks, have a really nice Sunday. Look forward to the podcast coming this evening with Bitmoss. Other than that, stay safe, stay humble, stay aware, and I'll catch you in the next one.